The Freemen will do wise to heed our extraction of the Myrmidon's aromatic pheropods. The process is not entirely hygienic, therefore stand aside.
Believe it or not, the game has just crashed. But why? That's the kind of thing we'll be looking at in this video. When shooting lightning at the Guardian's corpse, it's technically the same as a regular lightning attack and still inflicts damage. Since the attack hits the explosive barrel, it then of course explodes, killing the Vortigaunt. When the Vortigaunt dies, it has a certain variable called mhTargetEnt set to null. An NPC may use this variable for one of several different purposes, but at this moment, the Vortigaunt was using it to remember which entity it wanted to zap, which in this case is the Antlion Guardian's Ragdoll. However, just because the Vortigaunt has died doesn't mean his code quits running. The alternative, which is to instantly remove the Vortigaunt, is a lot more likely to cause problems. A small bit of code after this is still run even though he is now dead. This code attempts to spawn the bug bait. The Vortigaunt wants to spawn it right on the same object it was zapping, that is mhTargetEnt, which was set to null. This is one of the classic programming sins, referencing a null pointer. In other words, the game is attempting to access data it no longer has. When such a thing happens, crash. On to another way to crash the game, a Metro Cop standing on an airboat. This isn't actually a crash, it's an infinite loop, but it's close enough. I have no idea why this happens. Whenever I press the pause button in Visual Studio, it just takes me to some seemingly unrelated bullet-related function. My only hope of ever figuring this one out would be to use the leaked engine code that exists online. Even that might not be able to tell me everything, because that doesn't include the full physics code. It's also kind of technically illegal, so no thanks. I talked about this one in my facts series. If a citizen picks a weapon up from your hands, and then you try to throw the weapon using left click, the game just crashes.
Fantastic.
The cause of this one is kind of surprising. Usually when people talk about physically simulated things in the source engine, they sometimes refer to it as a physics object. But a physics object is in fact a very specific thing in code. The physics object is the thing that actually powers, well, all of the physics. But when a weapon is picked up, the physics object is deleted, aka set to null. When throwing something with your hands, the game will try to access the physics object. This creates another null pointer situation exactly like the first one. Although in that scenario, it wasn't that the corpse was deleted, it was simply forgotten about by the Vortigaunt. You may be wondering why the physics object would get deleted in the first place. I commented out the line that causes it and checked it for myself, and everything seemed perfectly normal. There's no more crash, and nothing bad at all seems to happen. I checked to see if maybe the weapon would exist at the character's feet as a solid object, which is a thing that can happen, but no, that didn't happen. It could perhaps be some kind of optimization, but the game ran fine for me, and that's even with Visual Studio's debugger. This crash cannot be performed with the gravity gun because it'll just lose its grip the moment the gun is picked up.
Fantastic. You waiting for somebody?
In one of the City 17 maps, there's an out-of-bounds area that will crash the game as soon as you enter it. The reason is pretty straightforward. It removes you. This creates null pointers in citizens and another entity on the map because obviously they're expecting that the player exists. If you remove those two things from the equation, however, everything suddenly okay, well, it doesn't crash, but it's still completely broken. The thing you probably care about more though is, why is there just a random trigger that removes the player? Half-Life 2 was built off of Half-Life 1. Over its development, it became less like Gold Source and more like the source engine we know today. Now I need to tell you about this trigger entity's flags. The flags are a set of variables that determine what things can interact with the trigger. As you can see, only flag number 1 is set, which means it will only interact with the player. But if this trigger were using the Half-Life 1 set of flags, it would be targeting NPCs instead of players. This entity was placed here before the flag values had changed, and it was never updated accordingly. This trigger was never meant to remove the player. It was meant to remove NPCs. Those NPCs are these soldiers. You can see them go in for a moment and then quickly come back out. This one annoys speedrunners. If you approach this helicopter too quickly, the game will crash. This is yet another null pointer situation. The helicopter doesn't know where it should go. Every place that a helicopter can go is represented by a small invisible object. These objects are linked together to form paths. It would seem like a pretty open and closed case. The player is moving too fast for the helicopter to have a suitable place that it should intercept the player at. But no, this is not what's happening. When the player is going too fast, the helicopter doesn't even get to its routine where it tries to find a suitable place to go to. I've done what I personally consider to be very extensive research into why this happens, but I am stumped. I have noticed a few interesting things though. There's a certain input which is delayed 0.6 seconds after the helicopter is first told to do anything. Once this input is fired, you can move around however fast you like, and the game will never crash. The crash seems to coincide with the act of being within the helicopter's vision range at the moment that it activates. You can see this by comparing two logs. In the log that crashes, the helicopter reached a function that confirms it has a line of sight to the target, and that method can only be reached after a successful range check. The crash is also direction-based. You only seem to crash when moving towards the helicopter. If you're moving away from it or to the side, it doesn't crash at all. I'm not sure how any of these things could be related, but they are clues, I guess. In the process of causing this crash, there's an assert that fails. That assert is in the exact place that a failsafe for this exact situation is supposed to go, but all that's there is a comment that says, "Fix me, implement." I think that says plenty. This is the